Good day, everyone. Today, I will be discussing the article entitled "The Significance of Teacher Leadership in College English Teaching." This is written by Shawi Lee and published in the Educational Review USA in 2024. This study also explores how English teachers are not only responsible for teaching language skills, but also for leading, inspiring, and influencing students toward academic and personal growth. Traditionally, when we hear the word leader, we immediately think of principals, department heads, or school administrators. However, this article challenges the idea by emphasizing that every teacher can be a leader, regardless of whether they hold a formal leadership position. Teacher leadership is demonstrated through a daily classroom practices, professional expertise, and meaningful relationship with students. Now, the author begins by explaining that teacher leadership has become one of the most important concepts in modern education. Today's teachers are also expected to do much more than simply deliver lessons. They are expected to motivate learners, collaborate with colleagues, improve teaching practices, and contribute to students' overall development. This is especially important in English language teaching, or ELT. Learning a language is not just about memorizing grammar rules or vocabulary. Students need also confidence, motivation, and continuous encouragement. And because of this, English teachers naturally become leaders who guide students not only academically but also emotionally and socially. So we have here also the theoretical framework that they have, or that is grounded on the concept of teacher leadership theory. According to York, Bark, and Duke, teacher leadership is the process through which teachers influence other people to improve teaching and learning. What's important here is that this influence does not come from authority or position. Instead, it comes from a professional competence, collaboration, and positive relationship. Lastly, Contreras explains that the primary purpose of teacher leadership is always to improve teaching and learning. Therefore, leadership is not about controlling students, it is about helping them succeed. Now, in terms of the research design and objectives, the researcher used a qualitative research design involving 50 third-year college students from the Sichuan University of Media and Communications in China. Instead of using numerical surveys, the researcher collected data through open-ended questionnaires, allowing students to freely describe the characteristics of teachers who had significantly influenced their life. The responses were then analyzed through thematic coding, which means that the researcher identified common patterns and recurring themes from the students' answer. The study also had several objectives. First was to identify leadership qualities students value in English teachers. Second, to determine how teacher leadership affects students' motivation and achievement. And also to identify effective teaching and leadership practices. And to explore life lessons students learn from influential teachers. And lastly, to understand the role of teacher leadership in students' holistic development. So one of the major findings of the study, that the students view their English teachers are leaders rather than simply instructors. Students also believe that effective teacher leadership is encourage them to believe in themselves, overcome challenges, and actively participate in learning. And also, the study identified three major outcomes of effective teacher leadership. First is the academic motivation. Students become more determined to perform well in English classes. They develop stronger academic goals and became more willing to work hard because their teachers inspired them. Second is the classroom engagement. Teacher leadership encourages students to actively participate in discussions, classroom activities, and collaborative learning instead of remaining as passive learners. And third is self-efficacy, or efficacy rather. Self-efficacy refers to the person's belief in his or her own ability to succeed. Students explained that supportive teachers help them become more confident, resilient, and willing to continue learning English despite difficulties. And all of these findings tell us that teacher leadership influences not only grades but also confidence and persistence. Now, moving on to the 4 leadership styles that resonate with the students according to this article. The study identifies the first style, which is the empathetic leadership. Empathetic teachers listen carefully, understand students' emotions, and create classrooms where learners feel respected, and valued. Students often remember teachers who genuinely care about their well-being. Second is the motivational leadership. These teachers constantly encourage students through positive feedback, constructive criticism, and words of encouragement. Third, we have exemplary leadership. Teachers leader become role models. Students admire teachers who demonstrate integrity, discipline, professionalism, and responsibility because they naturally inspire students to imitate these positive behaviors. And lastly, which is the 4th one, wise leadership. Wise teachers transform ordinary lessons into meaningful learning experiences. Instead of simply teaching English grammar, they encourage critical thinking, curiosity, creativity, and lifelong learning. These 4 leadership styles show that leadership is demonstrated through daily interactions rather than official titles. Now, moving forward to the personal qualities that matter more than techniques, or the character over technique, and what students truly value. Another interesting finding is that the students value teachers' personal qualities even more than instructional techniques. Although teaching competence remains important, students remember teachers who were first honest, responsible, enthusiastic, kind, patient, dedicated, and consistently positive. These qualities strengthen trust between teachers and students. When students trust their teachers, they become more motivated in terms of learning and more willing to accept guidance. This also suggests that leadership begins with the character. And a teacher may possess excellent teaching methods, but without integrity, kindness, and also respect, it becomes difficult to influence students positively. And what it is, or what is it beyond a classroom learning? Perhaps the most inspiring finding of this article is that the students remembered life lessons more than academic lessons. Years after taking English classes, students were more likely to remember values taught by their teachers rather than the grammar lessons. Teacher leaders rather help students develop first perseverance, resilience, responsibility, and self-discipline. We have also confidence and respect, and lastly, moral values and intercultural understanding. This means that English teachers contribute not only to language proficiency, but also to students' character formation and personal development. This supports the idea that the education is not only about knowledge, but also about preparing students to become more responsible members of the society. So, in conclusion, the author, Lee, emphasizes that teacher leadership is an indispensable part of effective English language teaching. This recommends that schools invest more in developing teacher leadership through professional development programs. Leadership training should not be limited to administrators because every teacher has the potential to become a leader. And also, this reminds us that educational success should not be measured solely by examination scores. That true success also includes students' emotional well-being, moral development, confidence, and lifelong love for learning. Okay. to provide you the reflection or my personal reflection about this article. And after reading this one, and after making outlines about this article only, I realized that becoming an effective English teacher means becoming a leader as well. Leadership again is demonstrated through everyday actions, listening to the students, encouraging them during difficult times, serving as a positive role model, and inspiring them to become better individuals. And me, as a future public teacher, I should always remember that students may forget some of the lessons that I will teach, but I will always remember, they will always remember, or my students will always remember how I would make them feel, I will make them encourage, and how I would influence their life. Again, this article reminds us that the greatest achievement of a teacher is not simply producing students with high grades, but also developing learners who are confident, responsible, and compassionate, and also prepared for lifelong learning. Thank you everyone, and that concludes my presentation or discussion of the article by Lane.